Well, good morning again. I'm Alex Juarez. I'm the communications director for AARP Arizona, and we're here again with Coach SheriAnne in the Back to Basics show. And today's show is going to be talking about the importance of sleep. That why it's so important for us. And unfortunately, this show is taped because on Tuesday we have a Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday we have a retreat, board retreat, and also staff retreat. So we are taping ahead of time. But please. Join us and share your comments, questions, etc. Coach SheriAnne will be happy to answer those questions. Again, remember that AARP is the nation's largest nonprofit, nonpartisan organization dedicated to empowering people 50 and older to choose how they live as they age. With a nationwide presence and nearly 38 million members across the nation and approximately 900,000 in Arizona, AARP strengthens communities and advocates for what matters most to families. Health security, financial stability, and personal fulfillment. In the month of March, we have focused on managing debt, maximizing savings, and increasing retirement savings. And we're going to be focusing in the month of April in fraud. So keep an eye on our pages because we're going to have a lot of tips, a lot of resources, information to keep you safe as well. But if you have any questions or if you want to visit our pages, please visit aarp.org/money tools for finances, retirement savings, etc. Or you can visit aarp.org/fraud watch network to learn more about these fraud scams that are taking place and how to stay safe from them. So thank you again for joining us. With that, I'm going to turn it over to our coach, Coach SheriAnne Little. Thank you so much. Hello, Coach. How are you?
I'm good, Alex. Thank you so much. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. Thank you. Another week, excited. And this week we're going to be having our board retreat. So we're very excited about that.
Yes, I'm excited for you guys. Having little retreats every now and again is good for the soul.
Yes,
so that's
absolutely
awesome. So here's a good question for you. So how did you sleep last night?
I never have an issue sleeping. From the moment I put my head down, my wife tells me I'm out. I'm already snoring probably. And I don't wake up until the next morning. So I normally sleep 7-8 hours. So I'm really good at that.
That's awesome. You're a rare person then, because 2 out of every 3 people are chronically sleep deprived.
Yes.
And so when I have conversations about sleep with people, I typically ask them, how'd you sleep last night? And some people have a hard time answering that question because they don't really know. And I'm like, well, if you're restful, like if you woke up without an alarm, that's great. Mm-hmm. And if you did have to wake up to an alarm, what I encourage people to do is kind of really reverse engineer their night. Like if you're having to wake up to an alarm and you're a little groggy, try to think about when you're going to sleep. And maybe you need to back that time up.
Okay.
And so like for me, I know that my body wants 7.5 hours of sleep. So and I wake up without an alarm like clockwork. And it's because I've been very, very habitual, and so if you're waking up to an alarm, I would encourage you to think about why you're needing to wake up to an alarm. Are you actually getting to bed and getting enough sleep? Because on average, we need 7 to 9 hours of sleep as adults. And as we know, children need a whole lot more. And especially when they're in their little young ages, because that's why they take naps, because their body is like growing and doing so much work. And then we have teenagers that really love to sleep in, that we coin them night owls. And they really are. There's that's just how their bodies are working. But as we get older, that night owl turns into morning lark or an early bird, whatever, however you want to phrase it. But that does happen over time. But still, no matter what, if you're staying up late, like make sure that you're getting your sleep. It's really, really important. And we'll kind of dive into why it's important, but I also ask people like, did you dream? Do you remember your dreams? Like sometimes I have really super vivid dreams. And sometimes I just have dreams and I'm like, yeah, I know I dreamt, but I don't really remember them.
Yeah. Why is that?
It's hard to tell. I mean, there's been a lot of studies done on it. And because we dream throughout the night, you dream. So there's 4 stages to sleep. Mm-hmm. We have the awake phase, which is right before you go to sleep and right when you wake up. Then you also have awake phases in the night, but you just don't know that you have awakened, that you've come to a very, very, very super light sleep, what we consider awake. Then the next is light sleep, which that's where you spend the majority of your evening is in light sleep. It's usually around 45 to 55% of the night.
Okay.
And then we have deep sleep, which is where you're very, very asleep. You're in a deep sleep, just like it sounds, and your heart rate slows down, your respiration slows down. And that's when your body is really starting to do a lot of its repair and its memory formation. It's cleaning the brain, it's doing all kinds of things in the deep sleep, but you don't spend a lot of time there. And then the fourth stage is REM, which we've all heard. It's rapid eye movement. And believe it or not, when you're in rapid eye movement, when you're in REM sleep, that's when you have your most vivid dreams.
Yes.
And what's interesting is the brain pretty much doesn't paralyze the body, but it kind of puts the body really just like doesn't let the muscles engage. You don't move when you're in REM, even though those are your most vivid dreams. And the reason that happens is is to pretty much keep you safe so that you don't act out your dreams. And some people do act out their dreams. You hear about that, like night terrors or night walkers or things like that. And that's a rare situation. But when you're in REM, your body is not moving. And but that's when you usually have your most vivid dreams. So remember,
so even though you're experiencing these dreams in REM, very vivid dreams, you're not moving. The body doesn't move.
No, not normally, not in most cases, I should say. And it's just the body's way of like protecting itself so that you don't act out your dreams. So it is, but that's why your eyes are, jetting around. Right. And you don't know this. I mean, we only see this in sleep studies because you don't know it's happening to yourself. But yeah, so it's the dreams just depends on where you're at in your light and your deep, and if you're coming to, and if your subconscious is filing those away. So it's just there's no rhyme or reason why you remember, why you don't remember, why some are vivid, some aren't vivid. A lot of it can have to do with what you're doing right before you go to bed as well. And we'll dive into that. But not getting a good night's sleep is really, there's so many things that can go wrong with the body. It's going to cause, weight gain usually with people because your hormones are really out of whack. Your stimulated and suppressant appetite hormones are just kind of out of whack because your circadian rhythm is all messed up. So you can suffer from dementia. You can suffer from depression, all kinds of mood disorders. You don't have very good memory. So you have learning and memory problems when you have lack of sleep. You can have an increased chance of heart disease. Your blood pressure is also increased. So there's all kinds of issues. People have a tendency, I think, to put such a huge emphasis on sleep with young people, like young children, as we're raising them and making sure they get their naps and like that. And a lot of it's so that they can cope, but it's so the body can do what it needs to do. Because when you're sleeping, even as an adult, your body that's when it replenishes itself. Right. That's, from brain to heart to all your limbs and muscles and everything. The brain actually goes through a washing process and it files your memories. And so that's why if you're not having good deep sleep, you don't have good memory. It's because it doesn't have an opportunity to go through what it did during the day and file away when it needs to file away. Your immune system does a reboot when you're sleeping. The inner workings of your metabolism. So if you're having weight issues, it could be because you're not sleeping well, because your metabolism doesn't have an opportunity to reset. Sure. Your tissues don't heal because everything turns over when we sleep. We have a massive cell turnover. So your tissues aren't able to heal, whether it be a wound on the skin or just muscles. And so that's an issue. So there's a lot of things that can happen when we're not sleeping. So it's super important to put emphasis on sleep. And if you ask anybody in my family, they will tell you, like, I wholeheartedly honor my sleep. Like, it gets to be 9 o'clock and I'm like, all right,
I'm out.
My boys were at the gym last night, and my youngest, I was like, if you don't get a ride home from your brother, I'm picking you up at 9 o'clock because I need to be home, like, starting my routine.
Absolutely.
It's
good to have those routines.
Well, that's my tip number one is actually you've got to stick to a schedule, and you really need to avoid long naps during the day. If you're going to sleep during the day, the rule of thumb is to make sure that it's about 20 minutes. It's what we call a power nap.
The power naps, yeah.
And the reason for that is, like I mentioned before, when we do sleep cycles, you actually go through like all your sleep cycles throughout the night, and you will go through anywhere from 3 to 5 full sleep cycles in the night, depending upon how long. Everyone's different, their sleep cycle. And so if you take a long nap and you dip all the way down into deep sleep, that's why when you're awakened from your long nap, you feel groggy.
Yeah, I
Because
was going to ask you about that. Yeah.
you're
Okay.
supposed to be asleep. Why are you waking me up? So that's why you just want to dip down into the light and then come back out. And so that you don't mess up your whole sleep cycle
Right.
or go into a full sleep cycle. And so, because if you go into a full sleep cycle, that messes up your whole circadian rhythm.
Right.
Because
Right.
we're actually designed to live by the sun
Yeah.
and the moon.
We need that light.
Yeah, when we
Absolutely.
invented light bulbs, it changed
Exactly.
everything.
If you're just joining us, this is a tape show because we are doing a board and staff retreat. So please make sure that you tell us where you're watching us from. And also, if you have questions for Coach SheriAnne about sleeping patterns or tips on sleeping, make sure you type them in the chat section there in the message section, and she will go back and answer your questions. You know,
Yes.
I've always been intrigued, and I don't know sometimes how my mother-in-law functions because she's a night owl to begin with. She doesn't go to bed until very late, but she has a very hard time sleeping. So I would say she sleeps maybe 4 hours a night, and she goes to bed 3, 4 in the morning, and then gets up by 11. But I don't think she sleeps all those hours.
Yeah.
That has got to be very tough on the body.
Oh, it will take its toll. Like,
Yeah.
and it's, people won't notice it right away, but it's this accumulative effect that will happen. And over time, like her cortisol levels are probably very high.
Okay.
Does she fight weight gain issue or weight issues?
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so it's really challenging for people that don't, it definitely 100% takes a toll on the body.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Doesn't give enough time for the body to repair.
It doesn't really give it.
From
No.
what I understand, she may have a little bit of lupus as well, which makes her very tired as well. But it's tough for her to sleep. That makes it difficult.
Well, she probably, has she been to any kind of a sleep specialist to just, to talk about having her sleep when she is sleeping, having it monitored and seeing if she's really not even sleeping? Because if she's snoring,
she's never done the study, but which I think is very important. She should do it.
Yeah, I will strongly encourage, if you're watching this and you're listening, you're thinking you have sleep issues, I would definitely reach out to your primary care and then a referral to a sleep specialist and just have a monitor done. And if you don't want to go that route, there's so many apps. And so there's sleep apps that you can have monitor your sleep. So I personally use an Oura Ring to monitor my sleep. And I love it because it tells me how much I spend in each sleep cycle. It monitors my respiration rate, my heart rate, my temperature. So we just downloaded it's called Snore Lab. There's so many different apps, but we decided on Snore Lab because when we were on spring break, one of my boys snored. And I was like, what is happening? And I was a little concerned. Part of it, he did have a little upper respiratory. So I just kind of chalked it up to the upper respiratory, and he had sore throat. So I was like, okay. But over the last week, he's like, I'm just so tired. And so we started monitoring when he was going to bed, when he was waking. He's definitely not getting enough sleep. He's 17 years old. So they fight that. I think they fight a chronic tiredness anyway. Yeah. And, but I was like, we're going to download because I want to see if you're still snoring, because the cold's gone. And because he's 17, I'm like, you really shouldn't be snoring unless there's something else going on. And so sure enough, he is snoring still in the night, not throughout the entire night, but about an hour and a half of the night he is snoring. And so when you're snoring, it doesn't allow you to hit deep sleep. So you actually end up waking yourself up because it's a form of sleep apnea because you're not getting enough oxygen to the body. So if you have chronic issues of being tired and you feel like you're not fully rested, try downloading an app to monitor your sleep just to give you some insight and some awareness. And then the next step would be to contact a doctor just to see if you can have a sleep study done to see what's going on with you in the middle of the night, because it very well could just be that you're not getting good sleep because you're either not breathing well, any number of things. So yeah, so it's just one of those, like maybe have your mom see if she's snoring and see if that,
Yeah, definitely true. So you definitely recommend that maybe people either get that app, or would the smart watches also keep track of the sleep as well?
Yes, they can, but I don't know that they're going to actually monitor, your breathing
Right,
patterns, anything
probably
like
not
that.
that.
So,
Hmm.
and that's usually what wakes people up in the middle of the night. Like if they're having sleep issues, is
Right.
usually their breathing pattern.
Okay.
And the nice thing about like a snore app is it records you, and and it was
Hmm.
very distinctive when I looked at my son's this morning, actually. And his is it's got such a strong pattern to it. So we're going to monitor it for the next few nights. And then of course, next week, I'm going to be reaching out to his pediatrician and being like, okay, what's the next step for us,
Right.
as far as doing a sleep study on him, because it, it will have lasting impact, negative impact. And so
Sure.
it's something definitely that people need to honor their sleep.
Sure.
Not
Sure.
enough
Sure.
people do. And they think that it's kind of like the weekend warrior syndrome, where people think that they can just get all their workout in on the weekend. And same thing with sleep. It's like, I'm going to sleep all weekend and bank it. And it's like, that's not how it works.
No. No.
So
No. No. No.
it's a
So you,
day-to-day thing that you really need to be aware of.
wonderful. So you
Yeah.
started talking about the tips, and you
Yes.
gave us a first tip, and that. What other tips do we have for people here?
So sticking to a schedule, that was one.
Mhm.
Number two is have a bedtime ritual,
Excellent.
and
Okay.
really have something that, so that your brain and your body recognize, hey, the time is here. Like
Right.
it's time to like slow down and just start. And I mean, I have a ritual of like what I do in the bathroom and how I set myself up. And I usually read or I journal right before I go to sleep.
Okay.
And so have a ritual, whatever your ritual be, whether it be stretching or reading a book or journaling. I think journaling is one of the best things that people can do, because if they have a mind that races and they have
Uh-huh.
a hard time slowing their brain down, writing it down and getting it out of your head really helps tremendously, so that you can just write it down and kind of close the book and be like, okay, I'm done with those thoughts. Now I'm going
Okay.
to allow myself to go to sleep. So have a ritual, and your ritual can be your ritual.
Right.
Uh, and the next one is, and I love this right now because it's the spring equinox. We're moving into a new season, and I really encourage people to get morning sunlight. As soon as you can, get outside and get morning sunlight on your body, because that is how, like I said earlier, we were designed to live in, you know, by the sun. So get
Hmm.
out, and not only is it going to help with your circadian rhythm, but you're going to get vitamin D. You're going to get the
Right.
sun on the body and able to absorb vitamin D right away, which is one of the most healthy. It's one of those things that you absolutely need. Yes, we can take supplements of vitamin D, but the best is from the sun. So I would encourage people to get out in the sun, whether it's just going for a 15-minute walk, or if you're a morning coffee drinker, sit outside, and get some sun on you while you're drinking your coffee or reading. If you like to read first thing in the morning, read the news and whatever. But get the morning sun on your body. It's great to do that. The next tip is to exercise daily.
Yes.
Exercising daily helps tremendously with your ability to sleep at night, believe it or not. And it's not because it tires you out, but it just creates, once again, another rhythm for the body. And so exercising daily will help your sleep tremendously. The next tip is really important because we're going into our summer months, but keep your house where you sleep, at least your room, cool. And I tell people to aim for, you know, 60 to 67 is ideal, but in the summertime, then your AC would be running 24/7 here in
Sure.
Arizona.
Yeah.
Uh, until I think next week, my windows have been open. So it's nice because our nights are still really cool. And
Right.
we've been fortunate enough here in Arizona to have a very beautiful spring. Usually we're close to the hundreds by now, but I think we're going to hit 80 next week for the first time.
Yeah.
Um, but I keep our house, typically it's 78, and then at nighttime, I drop it down to 74. Ideally, I'd love to have it cooler, but pocketbook dictates otherwise.
Right.
But try to have your room as cool as possible. I put a fan in each of the rooms also to help circulate air for one, and for two, it just creates some nice white noise, because circulating air just feels better, I feel like. And so, but keep your room as cool as you can, and then as dark as you can. Don't store electronics in your room. And if you do, I always encourage people to get electrical tape, and I use a hole puncher. So I make these tiny little black dots, and I cover the lights that, when something's plugged in, it emits light, usually sometimes from the plug.
Right.
So I cover all of the lights. Like if something's plugged in the room, it gets covered so I don't see any light emitting from it. And I do feel like that is really important, to make sure that the room is dark as possible.
Right.
And so it just helps. It helps your body know, like, it's sleep time. And speaking of electronics, the next tip is to mind your electronics. Our phones computers emit, TVs emit this blue light that stimulates the brain. And so really work hard at getting off your electronics, getting away from the screen at least an hour before you're going to retire and go to sleep. And that's so hard, because so many people watch TV in their evening, before they go to bed. And I totally get that. Like, I grew up with parents that did that. Like, they had a TV in their bedroom, and so here in my house, there's no TVs, or screens in the bedrooms. Although I'm in mine right now with my computer, because this is the best lit place, but we don't have screens in our bedrooms. And that's for a reason of just making sure that that's done. When the bedroom is the bedroom, it's meant for sleeping, and that is it. And so really mind your electronics. Try to get off of them at least an hour before you go to sleep.
Excellent.
The next tip is to avoid alcohol and caffeine late in the day, especially caffeine, as for reasons that we know. And alcohol actually is high in sugar. So it definitely does not, people think that alcohol is good to drink before they go to bed because it makes them tired, because alcohol can make people tired. However, it has an adverse impact on your heart rate, and it raises everything because it's got sugar. So your body's working really hard to digest that. And so they're calories. So when your body's trying to digest calories, it's not focusing on sleeping. So really try to mind your alcohol in the evenings and have it done, an hour to 2 hours before you go to bed, just so that it can be out of your system, or at least on its way out. But alcohol does impact your sleep. Right. And so the next tip, I'm blowing through these really fast. And so this is a recorded show. So if you have any questions or any, if you want to share any of your tips that work for you, please put those in the comments, and I will answer any questions that are there. The next one is to mind your medicines. And so if you are on prescription meds, make sure that you're talking to your doctor about taking the ones that you need to in the morning, so they don't impact your sleep. And your doctor can help you with all of those prescribed medicines. Understand that, like, cold medicines and things like that can have stimulants in them.
Yes.
So make sure that if you're taking cold medicines before you go to bed, that you're taking a nighttime cold medicine, so it doesn't rev you up and keep you awake. And cold medicines affect everyone a little differently. Like, most people think that antihistamines make them drowsy. I have one child that has an adverse impact on them. Antihistamines do not make them drowsy. It actually stimulates them. So we really watch if we have to take any kind of cold medicine, that we're not taking it before we go to bed.
We got to be mindful, yeah.
Yeah. So just mind your medicines, and understand, like, antidepressants also, like anything that you're taking prescribed, talk to your doctor about, can you take it in the morning, or do you you can avoid taking them in the evenings. Right. Those things are, like, really, really very important to discuss with your doctor as far as medicines go.
And they can discuss it with a pharmacist as well. My daughter's graduating as a pharmacist, and she tells me all about these medications. So awesome.
Oh, that's awesome. They are and they do have consultant windows at the pharmacy. And
Right.
And those pharmacists and the techs there are very, very knowledgeable. So
Very knowledgeable, yes.
use that.
Exactly. So what about, people that take a prescription medication to sleep, like an Ambien, and other people take maybe melatonin, which might be off from over the counter.
Mm-hmm. So melatonin, we actually produce melatonin, and most people don't know that. So it is a hormone that our brain, the pineal gland, secretes to monitor your circadian rhythm. So at nighttime, your body immediately secretes it, and in the day it stops secreting it when it knows that there's light. So, and if you want to take extra melatonin just to help you, there's no habitual, you're not going to be, it doesn't create any habit forming, taking extra melatonin. But there's no need to take more than 10 milligrams. 5 would be fine for people to take. And there's really no need for you to take it on a consistent basis. The only time I really recommend melatonin for people is if they've gotten their rhythm out of whack by traveling, by airplane, changing time zones, or they've been sick, something that's messed up their natural rhythm, then take melatonin for a few days just to get back on track. But your body secretes it naturally. So there's no need to take it on a consistent basis. Right. Now, not over the counter, but if you're taking prescribed sleep aid, that's definitely a discussion that you want to have with your doctor, because taking that on a consistent basis means there's a root problem, and it would be better for you long-term longevity to get to the root cause of why you're not able to be sleeping effectively. So if you're taking a sleep aid, I just want to encourage you to have a discussion with your doctor about how can you get off of that? What do you need to do to get off of that? And a lot of things that you can do is like just getting into a ritual in the evenings. And sometimes drinking some chamomile tea in the evenings is really calming. Also taking magnesium, that has a biochemical reaction. So magnesium actually helps us mellow out and get some good sleep. So magnesium is really good for you. Potassium. So you could take a magnesium and potassium supplement that would help with sleeping. Using lavender oil. So using a diffuser in your room just to diffuse a scent will help with sleeping. So there's a lot of different things that you can do. And so if you're stuck on taking a prescribed sleep aid, I would really encourage you to try these tips that I've given you and see if you can get off of the sleep aid. And doing some meditation, which we have meditation coming up, I think in two shows. And I'll do a lead meditation, a really short one, but meditating throughout the day or even before you go to sleep can really help. And there's apps there's the Calm app on the phone that people can do to help them create a ritual before they go to bed. And if you're waking up in the middle of the night and not able to get back to sleep, I really encourage people, like if you are waking up in the middle of the night, to have a strategy, and if you have that Calm app on your phone, you can turn it on and it can read you a story. It can play music. It can walk you through a meditation, whatever is going to work for you, but try not to get up out of bed. And I would only get up out of bed if you're feeling anxious, and that would be the only time to get up and do a very mundane activity. Whether it's, folding laundry or, something that doesn't really stimulate you, because the idea is just to stay in bed. So if you're waking up throughout the night, try different things like the Calm app to help get you back to sleep faster. But yeah, there's, on the Calm app, you can have it read you an adult bedtime story, and the voice is very, very soothing. Go back to your kid days. But yeah, sleep is just one of those things that people don't take serious enough. And it's so critical to your overall health, because that is when your body needs to be able to replenish itself.
Yep. Lots of repairing there. Well, wonderful. We're almost out of time. Again, we want to thank our audience for coming and watching us. And again, if you have questions, please type them in. Coach SheriAnne will be happy to respond for those questions. And for next show, what was the next show we're going to be talking about is how to exercise at home, correct?
Yep. How to get, if you don't want to go to the gym, and we're getting into the hot months. So like how to do
Yeah.
stuff at home that will be really effective for you.
Excellent. So we invite you to join us again. Thank you so much, Coach SheriAnne, and thank you to all of our audience, and have a great rest of the week. Thank you so much for joining us again for AARP Back to Basics with Coach SheriAnne Little. Thank you.